Build Jalen Bridges a statue. Give me the film of Jonathan Tchamwa Chachua's halftime speech. And oh, yeah, it's horns down forever. This is Locked On Baylor.
You are Locked On Baylor, your daily podcast on the Baylor Bears, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to another episode of Locked On Baylor, brought to you by Nissan. Thank you for making it first listen today and every day. The Baylor Bears victorious again in comeback fashion over the Texas Longhorns. And you know what? I'm kind of sick of this smock. I wore it in the last video. Hold on real quick. Oh, what's that? Oh, I didn't even notice. That was a horns down shirt for the people who still listen to this as a podcast. Baylor has the eternal scoreboard over the Texas Longhorns. The logo's kind of too far down for whatever. Eternal scoreboard, 93-85, and they didn't make it easy on themselves. Everyone who was at that game or watching that game went through just the gamut of emotions, especially if you're like me and you really, really, really like beating the Texas Longhorns and hate seeing them succeed. I'm a bona fide hater, like day one hater. Like I will not back down from those charges. And you think there's just no way. They did it to us in football. We played just horribly. They'll have that 38-6 on us in football. They can't do it for basketball. We're too good. We've been too good against them the last 15 years. And they were right. They weren't going to let that happen. These Bears, they were down 14 in the second half. They come back and win by 8. At one point, they're up like 10 or 12. Like it was kind of relatively easy at the end of the game. Like they were down 14 at the under 16 media timeout. And with like 7.5 minutes, they had their first lead of the game and they didn't relinquish it. I mean, maybe on the free throw at some point, like right after, but they didn't look back. And that is something that I think is kind of another shoe to drop for this team. You might have saw it drop last night. They've had comebacks, and they had a nice comeback against Houston that fell short in overtime, but you got it to overtime. But this team has handled adversity throughout the season, and you saw it play out in a very satisfying way, overcoming adversity Monday night against Texas. Like they were down 14. UT, credit to them to a certain degree. I mean, they had Baylor in a blender. The way they were playing offense, it was they got every mismatch they wanted, and they were just picking Baylor apart. And the Bears turned that around in the second half. They locked down Asmus and some of the other guys around him. Mostly, I think Asmus still had 16 in the second half, but he was minus 19 in the second half. Minus 19. They went after UT's weak spots. And unfortunately, it kind of comes with Dylan Dessou getting hurt in that second half. He only had 3 points in the game, and it was that 3 that he got a technical right as it went in. But certainly didn't want to see that non-contact knee injury. That didn't look good at all for a guy who was really a talisman for them. Even having a backcourt of Hunter and Asmus, he is still a big part of that. And on the Baylor side, Jalen Bridges, Jaylen bleeping Bridges, man. I have been singing his praises this season, and especially the last couple of weeks here. And he is the unsung hero of this team. Well, last night he was the sung hero because he goes for a career high 32 in one of the best shooting performances I've seen from a Baylor player ever. Which Makai Mason was in the building again. He is the number one shooting performance I've ever seen from a Baylor player, but this is right up there. 32 points on 8 of 11 field goals, 6 of 7 from beyond the arc. 6 of 7. Ooh, that's no small sample size. That is elite good and 9 rebounds to go along with it. He was the guy. He kept them in the game in the first half. He kept them in at some points in the second half, and he helped get that lead. It's not like he took the second half off. In fact, one of the big plays of the game is Jalen Bridges defensively. Baylor starting to make a run, and I don't remember who it was. I think it was that center who really sucks for them. Shedrick. Yeah, that's who it was going in for a layup or a dunk, and Bridges blocks him from behind, and that keeps momentum on Baylor's side. And again, they don't turn back from that. So Jalen Bridges, man, take a bow. Like, there was a great group honored on senior night, and he just took it upon himself. He said, "This is Jalen Bridges night." And it was like heroic. I got goosebumps watching it. He was everything for Baylor last night. Everything. And that's not to say other guys didn't contribute, but he pulled them up by their bootstraps, man. And he says, "I don't care if none of y'all are coming with me, but I'm going in there and I will give it everything. I will leave everything on that floor to beat the Texas Longhorns, man. I will leave it all out there." And he did. I think I've brought this up before, but as the Celtics guy, I'll bring it up again. In the 81 finals, Cedric Maxwell won the MVP of the finals. And a lot of you don't know who that is, but a lot of the guys who run that team. Larry Bird, Kevin McHale, Robert Parrish. All these superstars, Hall of Famers, all NBA guys. But it was Cedric Maxwell in that series who said, "Guys, get on my back. If you don't think you can take us there, I will take us there." And Jalen Bridges said that tonight. He said, "I don't know who's coming with me, but I will keep us in line until y'all will wake up, and then I will carry us from there too." And it was a heroic performance. Ray J. Dennis deserves flowers too. He turns the ball over 4 times, but he assists it 8 times. Goes 6 of 11 from the floor. 16 points. Josh O, man, he deserves some flowers off the bench. 10 points, 4 of 4 from the floor, and 4 rebounds. Absolutely did his job. Kind of another struggle night for Yves Missi. He didn't have one last game, but against Houston is the one I'm thinking of. He has only 7 points on 2 of 7, but also pulls down 8 rebounds. So it's not like he didn't do his job to a certain degree out there. And you got all the seniors in the game, and you end up having a really emotional night and a fantastic comeback win. I was ready to come on here in the first half. I was ready to come on here and say the ceiling has changed for this Baylor team, because I did think it was that bad. And there are some things they still need to clean up, but this team's ceiling is like an outer space, man. They can do it all. They'll need to be more consistent. Yeah. And we're running out of time for that. Sure. But this team is capable of every great thing you can think of. Just keep believing that. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And you can get buckets with your first bet on FanDuel, because right now new customers get $150 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $150 if your bet wins. So bet on all your favorite NBA players and teams with those quick bets, the same game parlays, the exclusive props, the Keontae George over in points and 3-pointers made. That has won me some money this year. Visit FanDuel.com/locked-on to shoot your shot. Again, that's FanDuel.com/locked-on. FanDuel, official partner of the NBA. Jalen Bridges deserves all the credit in the world for that performance on Monday against UT. But I've talked about him. Ray J had, I thought, a pretty good game still. He deserves it too, and all the seniors deserve it. But Jonathan Tchamwa, can we talk about him for a minute? I have a feeling I'm going to get emotional talking about this, but if there's anyone whose number I would retire almost purely out of sentimentality, it would be Jonathan Tchamwa. And lest we forget, he was a terrific player when he was physically able to play more out there. And I want to give him his time now because, again, he doesn't play a lot anymore, and I don't know when we're going to get this time again. He is the embodiment of all that we love about this school and this program and this culture. He even before the injury, right? You heard about those stories before the 2021 season. He had redshirted the year before, and he was the one getting the guys when COVID was shutting a lot of things down. He was the one getting guys to, lift weights on their back patio and get to the gym whenever they could and play one-on-one whenever they could and work on just anything the coaches asked him to. And it made him such a well-rounded player, such an important part of a championship team, and now the emotional leader of this team. And that's a role that he's clearly been taking on more and more as the season has gone on. If you watch the Baylor Plus, the post game, the inside the locker room they did after the Kansas win, Scott had mentioned, shout out to Jonathan who gave us a big lift today. He was just as important as any of the guys out there on the court. And then he stopped and he said, because all the players were cheering when Coach Drew said that. And Coach Drew stopped and he said, "You hear that, John? It's one thing when us coaches say it, but your brothers out here, your teammates needed it too. And they're thanking you too. Like that's a whole nother." And we hear it again last night. For those of you who weren't in the arena, after senior day game is over, all the seniors get a chance to address the fans with the microphone. And Everyday John was the last one up there. And Scott, before he gives them the mic, says, he's been a huge part of this team. He is the living miracle, the walking miracle. And by the way, he was the one who gave the speech at halftime to the team that enabled this incredible second half comeback to give you one of the best nights, regular season nights of Baylor basketball. He's the one who did that. And it makes perfect sense. It just makes perfect sense. And he took the time to thank everybody. And you could tell he was almost lost for words. Like he didn't know what to say. I need the footage of that halftime speech. I know we'll probably never get it, but I need that like I need air to breathe. So to all the seniors, like this was a great group of seniors who have done so much for this program. And to be quite honest, I think their best days with this program are still ahead of us. I really, really do. But specifically to Jonathan Tchamwa, thank you, man. Thank you. So often in college sports and pro sports especially, but college sports too, and I'm not even just talking about Baylor, like there are times where us as fans are so angry when results aren't going our way because sometimes it feels like, there's not maximum effort out there and that there are players out there who don't care enough about the logo the way we do. And most of the time that's not true, but it's not going to convince you in the heat of the moment. But there are some guys out there who you will defend to the death because they wear that uniform the way you would wear that uniform. And Jonathan Tchamwa is that guy. There are a couple on this Baylor team for sure. I don't want to say that this is a bunch of guys coasting, but he is the one you point to and say, that's Baylor. That's us, the fans, 23 out there. Because we have seen him handle that adversity. We've seen him come back stronger. We've seen him do it with a smile on his face and with the biggest heart and with such a servant's heart, a love for Christ and a love for all of us. And I know his teammates feel that too. But thank you to Jonathan Tchamwa for that. And to all these seniors and to all these players, because this was a special night, and I'll get more into that in the final segment. But I do want to talk about some of the things Baylor can improve on, because there are some things They didn't. They lost the turnover battle quite significantly in this game. They turned over 13 times, which isn't a huge number. It's not great, but they only forced 5 out of Texas. So there's a problem there. And to be quite honest with you, I really didn't know what they were doing in the first half offensively nor defensively, but I'll focus on the offense for now. And they've really become a high ball screen team. I know that's been coming all season long, but I just thought there was this, it was stagnant in the first half, just stagnant. But obviously the problem was defensively. They gave up 48 points, 49 points in that first half. I know Texas is a talented team, but that can't happen. That can't happen. And they had a great shooting night to start, just like they did in that game in Austin. It petered off a little bit to the point where I'm amazed to say that Baylor actually had a better field goal percentage for the game because Texas made like their first 8 or 9 shots of the game. It was incredible. And A. Smith is A. Smith. That's why he is a top 10 scorer in the history of college basketball. Like, he's that dude. And I talked about, I felt like he was a non-factor in the second half. He still scored 16 in the second half. He had 17 in the first half, but was minus 19 in that second 20. He leads all scorers with 33. Tyrese Hunter, if you're a Texas fan, man, you have got to be just all over the place with Tyrese Hunter. I thought he was going to be a first-team All-Big 12 guy when he made that move, and it just has not clicked for him overall. Of course, he has good games here and there, but he only goes for 12, and I thought most of his noise came in the first half. And let me double-check here. Actually, he had 6 of his 12, so half his points in the first half. But these guys just didn't feel like factors in the second half, and they had to go thin on their bench. IT Horton, Ithiel Horton, that guy, I don't know what he brings that Texas team. I really don't. And that's someone Rodney Terry worked a lot on to get him in the starting lineup, get his confidence up early in the season. But he's a jag, man. Like, he's just a journeyman. I think this is his 4th college, and just has not rose to that. Brock Cunningham we'll need to talk about. I was legitimately wondering if, when he fouled out of the game, if Baylor could elect to keep him in, because that brother stinks. Had all this time, all these years to figure out how to be good at college basketball, and he didn't. And he's a dirty player, which we've seen a couple of times in the last few weeks now. Had a couple hard fouls, some of them hard, clean fouls, good, hard professional fouls. But some of them were not. 2 of them were not. And one of them, he got kicked out with a flagrant, which was his 5th foul anyway. Like, they were so focused on taking the guards out of the game and keeping the ball out of A. Smith's hands that they were giving Brock Cunningham good looks. And he can't hit them because he's not a good basketball player. And he's almost my age. It's time to get a freaking job, brother. Like, we've all done it. It all comes for us. You've done, your little victory lap over Tech. You've done your 94 feet with Jay Billis and talk about how you lived out of a van in the summer and you're just trying to be that guy. It's over. Go travel to Utah, travel around the world, do your Volkswagen van thing and be a hippie and go barefoot. But basketball's not your thing. It's done. And Texas's thing is just not beating the Baylor Bears. Just not doing it. And I think it's time that on their way out, we give a little eulogy to our Longhorn friends. But before that, how about I tell you about our friends over at Nissan, a new sponsor with the Locked On Podcast Network. And maybe this is to Brock Cunningham, because, he does the whole Jay Billis thing. Well, let me ask you this, Brock. Are you the kind of driver that likes to push things a little further? Okay, ever wonder what adventure is around the next corner? Well, our friends at Nissan have a lineup of SUVs with the capability to take your adventures, Brock Cunningham, to the next level. Maybe you try the Nissan Rogue. It's perfect for that city driving in Austin, but also the great escapes in the hill country. Class exclusive Google built-in is your always updating assistant to call on for almost anything, okay? You don't even need to connect your phone. Google Assistant, Google Maps, Google Play Store, all of that right in there. Perfect mid-size crossover. Or maybe you're looking at the Pathfinder, which has room up to 8 and a bunch of cargo capacity. Or maybe the Nissan Armada, which will change what you expect from a full-size SUV. It's a rugged 4x4 that can seat up to 8 in first-class luxury and style. You can tow bigger and explore further in that Armada. Okay, so take the Nissan Rogue, the Nissan Pathfinder, or the Nissan Armada and go find your next big adventure once you get that big boy job in PTO, Brock. Shop NissanUSA.com. So for all we know, that was it. They might face off in the Big 12 tournament, but for right now, this is the last matchup as conference foes between the Baylor Bears and the Texas Longhorns. And in this particular matchup, Texas can't get out of the conference soon enough because Baylor has been hell for them the last 15 years. They couldn't find their way out of this thing through no matter who the coaches were. That they couldn't figure out Baylor the last 15 years, and they are so thankful to not be playing the Baylor Bears anymore. As well, they should be. I think this rivalry is special still in a way for this basketball program because this was really the first team, I think, and he'll never admit this, but the first team that Scott Drew circled and said, that's the program we need to usurp to get to where we want to be. And I'm sure people would have laughed at him if he said that. And now it's Kansas is that program, right? Like we're neck and neck with Kansas all the time. And obviously they have the history, of course, but Texas was that first one. And now it's Kansas because we've done the Texas thing. We've settled that. We are 1,000 times a better basketball program than Texas. And it was 2009 when that turned around because they had lost 24 in a row to the Longhorns. And since then, they are, let's see, I just lost it here. Since 2009, they are 23-10. Baylor is 23-10 against Texas since 2009. They are 13-3 since 2016, now 14-3 and 24-10 in those numbers. And they have won now 7 straight and 8 of the last 9 in Waco. And it's a pretty good run before the last 2 years in Austin as well. Like they closed out the drum in style. So that's the thing. Texas wishes they had this program. They do. They'll never admit it to you because their pride and their ego won't let them. But they wish they were this program. And many programs wish they could have even just the night that Baylor just had, let alone what Baylor's had the last 5 years, let alone the banners. And through all of that, with how great this program has been the last 5 years, and they've made the jump that I think a lot of us never expected they would, there is something bigger to this program. And you saw it if you were in the Foster Pavilion Monday night. Emotional win, unbelievable atmosphere, and all the context that goes into it. And then you have the seniors addressing the crowd after the game with genuine love. And then they brought out the chaplain who gave the prayer before the game, got the mic with all 5 seniors and prayed over every single one of them in a thoughtful, personalized message for every single one of them. That is this program. Beating the PISS out of the Texas Longhorns, hanging national championship banners, having terrific young men, and serving a greater purpose. That's what this program is all about. And I am so damn proud to be a part of that. And I know most of you listening are too. And it starts with beating Texas. I say Texas wishes to be this program, and I think that's underselling it a little bit. Texas Longhorns, you had every opportunity to be this. Every opportunity. The money, the resources, the recruiting, the coaches, the one and done 5 stars, all-American lottery draft picks you bring in all the time. You had the chance. You couldn't do it. And I know it's eating you up. Us, the Baylor Bears, the Baylor Bears, the athletic department you're still convinced is little brother is so much better than you in this sport, is eons better than you in a sport that a lot of people care about, is the national power that you could not become, that you could never sustain. You have Kevin Durant. That's great. You had the TJ Ford Final Four. That was 20 years ago. Fantastic. But it's been so far over for you. We surpassed you a long time ago. And then we took that to the next level. Final Four, national championship, Big 12 championships in the regular season. You can't touch that. You can't touch us. You wish you were us. You wish it. Who do you think you are? We are. You had every opportunity to be the powerhouse in Texas in this sport, and you screwed it up every time. And Rick Barnes hated us. And then Scott Drew, his program surpassed Rick Barnes, and Barnes got fired. And then they brought Shaka in there, and Shaka was Scott Drew's son. He couldn't do anything. Chris Beard comes in there, has a little good thing going, screws it up for himself, but still can't beat Baylor. And now I've got Rodney Terry saying that they need every foul call for Baylor to beat Texas. No, brother, you're not as good as us. Not on this night, not on this season, and not in the last decade and a half. You are not us. You are not on our level. And it's a beautiful sight. And by the way, Chris Beard's going to have Ole Miss in the tournament next year. Shaka is having a terrific run at Marquette right now. They've been a top 10 team almost every week the last 2 years. So it's not them. Rick Barnes has had some great teams at Tennessee. Great teams. It's not them. It's you. It's the University of Texas. You guys screw it up. You guys can't get out of your own way. And now you've seen Houston come in and bully you. They're a better program than you again. Right now, TCU might be a better program than you. And the Baylor Bears are unequivocally a better program than you. So you want to talk about bragging about going to the SEC? You're ducking all of us. You are ducking us because you can't compete with us anymore. Tech went to a national championship game. Houston went to a Final Four. Baylor won the whole damn thing, and there's nothing you could do about it. You could not get out of your own way. You peed right down your leg every time you played us. So yeah, good luck in the SEC. You won't have to see these in-state rivals anymore that just love beating you and do it a lot. So sayonara, Texas, and best of luck, because you don't have to deal with us anymore. And that's one of the best things that's ever happened to your program. Don't let it hit you on the way out. Thanks for making it your first listen today and every day. This is your favorite show, and it'll be back tomorrow. It's Locked On Baylor.